Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 of the So You've Never Lifted a Weight Before series. Today we're going to be going over some of the more nuanced details that are good to understand before you get started into the program. If you feel like just going straight into it, then part 4 is going to be containing the directions for each of the exercises within this program for day 1. Then we'll go into doing the same thing for days 2 and day 3. So this is going to get more into the tracking side of things and making sure that you understand how everything should be looking when you are doing the program. So we're going to get straight into it with the very first thing being an overview of what the program itself is. 3 days for the whole program. That's what it's going to be. You can do them every other day or just do them 3 days a week on the same days each week. Day 1, day 2, day 3, each are going to be hitting the majority of your body, but with different priorities for each of those days. Day 1, you have legs being the priority since they're the start of the workout. And day 2, you're looking at more of the pull side of things being the priority as they're the start. And for day 3, you're looking at push being the priority as they are the start. That's going to be a pretty simplistic way of getting this started, but what you'll notice is these are all organized to give you a good overview on all aspects of your body, making sure you can go ahead and learn more about each of your body parts as you train. So one of the first things to make sure you are really going to key into is that when you are doing an exercise, you want to make sure the reps are going to be standardized. We want to make sure we have good solid form, so let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what that should look like. Here we have me doing a one-arm row, and you've seen the video from this before, but now we're going to actually analyze it. There's going to be more than just us looking at the effort. We want to see that there is a nicely standardized start position for each of these reps, and we can see that there's going to be a nice standardized end as well. If there's going to be any slowing down, anything that's going to be missing in the rep, it's probably going to be in that last few inches, but as you can see here, I'm still able to get there to that end position. The other part about it is that there's no momentum, there's no bounce as I'm going through this. So even though it slows down, I'm still always in control. And even when I'm speeding up as I'm pulling the arm back, I'm still always in control. At any point, I'm able to just stop moving if that is desired of me. I call that the freeze test. If someone can say freeze at any point in your training and you can do it, you're good. If you can't, then you put too much momentum into it. This is going to make sure that you're always going to be safely lifting. You want to make sure that you're controlling your joints throughout, and that means you're not just throwing them around. You'll also notice that there's going to be another added aspect to this set. I'm putting in a Kelso Shrug superset. This is a different type of rep. So when you're doing that, the same things still apply, even though that range of motion got to be much less. So when you're talking about maximizing the range of motion on an individual rep, you want to make sure that it is appropriate for the type of rep that you are doing. As you can see, these full range of motion reps are going all the way back as far as I possibly can, and then I redefine what full range of motion is when I switch to the Kelso Shrug here. It's all still under control. I'm just doing a lot more based off of your shoulder blades in the Kelso Shrug than I am with the normal reps. The other thing to keep in mind when you're looking at this is the effort is still high and it's still controlled, even when I was doing the Kelso Shrugs. Remember, you can go ahead and quantify as much as you want using RPE or RIR, or you can just keep it simple and just use the one sentence summary of it all, where you execute each working set so that the weight starts to involuntarily slow down. And once that happens, you do another 1 to 3 reps without sacrificing the form. But we're going to go ahead and start talking about tracking next. And that means we're going to be using RPE with one style, or you can do it without RPE and just tracking the reps. So quick refresher, RPE stands for rating of perceived exertion. And what it does is it tells you how many more reps you could have possibly done when that set has ended. RPE 10 being failure, RPE 9, 1 more rep, RPE 8, 2 more reps. And then you have the halves. If it's RPE 9.5, then maybe you could have gotten one more rep, but also maybe not. RIR is the same thing as RPE, but I prefer RPE, and therefore we're going to be using RPE in the examples following. So when you are setting this program on the whole, you want to make sure that you are having a progression in mind. You want to make sure that you're tracking everything so that way at the beginning it's easier than it is later on. We're trying to give the body reason to adapt to what is happening. And if you go ahead and just do the same RPE the entirety of the way, well, then you may progress, you may get stronger, but we're also running the risk that you're just going to run yourself into the ground and not be able to efficiently recover for everything possible. What you want to do is give yourself times where there's less overall demand on your body and other times where there's more overall demand. And if you can grade that to starting off less to then hitting more at the end, you can give yourselves these progressions that are planned that should yield pretty solid results reliably and predictably instead of just hoping because you just blindly train hard. So here you can see a few different examples in this graph on the left that's showing different ways an exercise may progress. The nice one here is that leg press, where it's a pretty linear strength gain going from week 1 all the way up to week 5. However, it's much more likely you're going to see something more like the example here of the flat dumbbell bench press, where it starts at the low 30s and it ends barely higher with the mid 30s being hit, and it's not linear at all. You have a decrease, then an increase, then a decrease in terms of the progress. That's going to be probably more what you'll expect. And if you can hit something in the middle, like the example here for the lat pull down, where it goes up and down, yes, but it ends significantly higher, that's phenomenal. But not every exercise is going to be progressing the way that all of your other ones do. It's not a universal thing. Everyone has their strengths, their weaknesses, and the way their body is may mean that some exercises are just more advantageous than others. For example, when you look at people with different limb lengths, what you can see is that sometimes when someone has a really long torso, then they might be better off doing a squat or a deadlift than someone who has a really short torso but really long legs. There are trade-offs, and it's very independent for the person, but for now you don't need to worry about it too much. The point is to find out where you are and continue to progress that way. The thing you want to do is to track effectively. And so this is the simplest style where you do not track the RPE. All you are doing is tracking the working weights and the working sets for the exercises that you're doing. And this is because I don't want to clutter the screen too much, just us looking at 2 particular exercises and the style you can use to go ahead and really just track it consistently throughout. It's designed to be the easiest possible. Here you've seen that there's a couple specific aspects that are going to really shine out. You have the sets and the reps that you're doing in set 1, 2, 3, and 4 if you're doing 4 working sets. You'll notice it has a bonus working set there even though the standard thing is saying you want to do 3 working sets. Honestly, it's a guideline. It's not an exact prescription. If you want to view it that way, you can, but it's not required. It is going to be more important later on, once you're more experienced, to know your true limits. But for right now, you're trying to figure that out. And sometimes that means doing extra in terms of the work sets. So we look at our progression here for the leg press. We have 270 pounds for the first set for 12 reps. And then you see a little bit of drop off because the effort was still high. So it ends at 240 pounds for 9 reps. Pretty significant drop off, but that means you are training hard. You expect to have drop off when you are truly training to the extreme. If I was looking at this and I saw 270 for 12 happening all the way across the board for 4 working sets, my initial response is that at best, the last set, maybe the last 2 sets were legitimate working sets. The other thing to note is that not always are you actually going to be able to do the exact exercise that is listed in the plan. For this example, for some reason, flat dumbbell bench was not done, and instead an incline dumbbell bench was done. So you want to be able to keep track of the discrepancies there as well, because you're not always going to be completely standardized. And if you do this without RPE, it's very simple just to put it there. But once you add in RPE, you have additional aspects. So again, to eliminate clutter, we're looking at very little for this screen. You have your flat dumbbell bench, 45 pounds for 10 reps with an RPE of 8. And because that's a significant RPE, we have set 2 here, 45 pounds, but some drop off. And not only in terms of the reps, going down 1 rep, but also increasing in that effort. So you have that 9 RPE instead of that 8 RPE of that first set. And again, we just substituted for the incline dumbbell bench. So then what we have to realize is that this isn't important on the individual workout scale. This is important for the progression over time. So let's pretend that is week 1. And we go into week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. We are looking at this in terms of wanting to see the weight go up and the reps go up. So week 1, we're starting 45 for 10, RPE 8, 45 9, RPE 9. Week 2, we have an additional rep being done, same RPE. Okay, for the first set. The second set ends up being the same amount of reps there with a decrease in the RPE. So it's not always a strictly weight and rep progression. Sometimes it's an RPE progression where it gets a lower RPE because it was easier because you've become stronger. And then we can see week 3, again, we increase the reps from week 2's 11 to week 3's 12. Because you hit 12, we can go ahead and just pop up the weight and you will see the reps drop back down. So it went from 45 for 9 to 50 pounds for 8. But a little bit hard in RPE because it is a weight jump and you're not used to it. And you can see how this will continue. 50 pounds starting on week 4 instead of 45 pounds starting. And then we go forward, and then in this example, week 5, we're ending with an increase in the amount of weight, reps, and RPE in comparison to the beginning. This is the kind of progression you want to see over time. So that's going to be the basics for ways to track how you are doing your workouts. You want to make sure you're taking your reps and controlling them well. You want to make sure you are tracking the amount of weight and the amount of reps that you're doing over time so you can make sure that you are progressing. It's a good way to keep things analytical, and that's going to be a really, really significant benefit to your training to make sure that everything is progressing the way it is supposed to and making sure you're getting the most you can out of it. So thanks everybody. I hope that helped, and just a friendly reminder, you're not doing this alone.